I was little, my sisters and I were always on the hunt for opportunities to prove how brave and courageous we were. Usually the twins and I were part of these grand adventures. We had all sorts of ways to challenge each other. Like many kids, we had eating contests until we barfed. We'd learned how to master the ability of balancing on the top rail of the corrals. But always we ended up with scars that showed that no adventure came without a cost. As we start the new school year, we're trying to find our footing amidst the COVID pandemic and an anti-racist reckoning which is long overdue. My dear students, I thought I'd share a cartoon and 3 life lessons on this, the last of the McEachran Mondays this 2020 summer. One day, the twins and I decided to tip a round bale feeder onto its side and make a human hamster wheel. Go big or go home, we decided, and push the 10-foot metal ring up a hill overlooking the barnyard. The hill wasn't even as tall as a 2-story house. The 3 of us took up our positions on the rungs within the feeder. Imagine 3 mice jockeying for space inside a hamster wheel. Slowly at first, we took mincing, careful steps. Ultimately, gravity, excitement, and the need for speed got the best of us. Soon, the 3 of us were sprinting and scream-laughing down the hill as we inevitably lost control and were forcibly ejected from the careering carrier. The feeder launched over anthills and hurtled towards our cows. Izzy and Jezzer bugged their eyes, spat their cuds, and scrambled for traction as the round bale feeder hurtled towards them. Milkshake City, people! As we lay in the grass, knees and feet still tingling with the sensation of an adrenaline rush, we scanned ourselves for injury. No broken bones, no blood, success. But wait, what's this? It turns out that our lush patch of green grass that we landed in was in fact a healthy growth of stinging nettle. Instantly, we erupted in welts from head to toe. No doubt this was karma for the cows. Lesson 1, being brave does not equal being comfortable. Lesson 2, Lucy and I especially would venture forth from our home in search of the great unknown. One day we were pedaling down an old dirt road when we saw an old granary. The 2 of us barged inside. To our surprise, the building appeared to be a tiny house, scattered with treasure camouflaged as junk. We rummaged through stacks of discarded magazines, turned rusty cans over in our hands, and shook dust onto the rubble-strewn floor. It was no bigger than a chicken coop, and we noticed that there was this little loft area at the end. What was up there? More treasure? No ladder remained, but a dented 5-gallon pail and a few stacked boxes provided us with the extra height we needed. Lucy and I wobbled precariously as we gripped the edge of the attic and pulled ourselves up to peek our curious kid eyes into the darkness of the lofty lair. What treasure would we discover? We discovered the owner of the house. A hissing, hairy ball of righteous self-defense hurled itself out of the dark and right at our peeking faces. The shack erupted into screams. Lucy and I toppled over backwards, crashing into the debris and scrambling out the door on all fours. Finding shelter behind a tree, we peeked back at the gaping doorway. What the heck was that thing? Lucy wondered aloud while I hyperventilated. Unable to resist the pull of our curiosity, we crept closer and closer until once more we were back inside the shack. It wasn't so big as to be a bear or a cougar up there, so we felt sure we weren't going to be eaten if we went back in. Hearts pounding, we inched closer and closer to the overturned pail and boxes, set them up, further back this time, and took a second look. Beady and suspicious eyes glared back at us. It was only a wee pack rat guarding his treasures from looting intruders. Who knew they could hiss like that? The poor thing was probably even more scared than we were. Leaving him in peace, we never bothered him again. To this day, I drive by that shack and wonder if it's still inhabited by a family of pack rats. I have a healthy respect for dark nooks in old buildings, I tell you. Lesson 2, you never know what you'll encounter when you're in the middle of an adventure. It can be scary not knowing. But when you muster your vulnerability and your courage, oftentimes you'll find that the thing that you were really scared of isn't anything you can't face, especially with a little help from your friends. It's okay. We'll be all right. Lesson 3. The Nesbit boys weren't always our playmates. Even though the boys and their older sisters lived a quarter mile down the road from us, and even though we took the bus to school, we didn't ever play with them or talk to them, well, because they were boys. Us girls thought boy germs were nasty because we were raised in an all-girl household. We were younger than 10 when the Nesbit sisters and my older sister Jojo double-dared Lucy and I to kiss the boys. For those of you who can't recall what it's like to be in the primary grades, the idea of kissing the opposite sex is easily the most repulsive thing in the world. Truly, of all of our adventures, I can't recall one that made Lucy and I gird our loins more than our first kisses. Both of us remember steeling ourselves for the horrors of touching girl lips to boy lips. Let's be fair here, the boys no doubt felt the same. They didn't call me stinky in school for nothing. Gosh, milking cows twice a day and bathing semi-weekly left me a certain pongy aroma that didn't make a guy want to get too close, I'm sure. We faced off like hockey players, except we closed our eyes and held our breath. Wrinkled noses and lips puckered, Willie and my lips touched so briefly that hummingbirds were impressed by our speed. Meanwhile, behind a bush, Lucy and DeWalt sealed the deal away from prying eyes. We knew the deed was done when their loud gagging sounds burst forth and the 2 of them briskly sanitized their lips on dirt-crusted forearms, the dog, the ground. Anything seemed cleaner than kissing. I think we expected accolades for our bravery, but instead, our big sisters rolled on the ground, laughing at us, pointing. Cheeks flaming, the boys, the twins, and I, Casey could always feel Lucy's pain, stalked off together, indignant. How rude of them to make fun of us after we'd been so tough. When we were far away from the instigators, the boys and us girls solemnly swore never to kiss each other again. A spit-sealed handshake made the oath even more solemn. The funny thing is, as a result of that shared experience, the 5 of us were best friends afterwards. Most of our adventures included the Nesbit boys, either as knights in shining armor or co-participants in crazy adventures. Lesson 3: just because you haven't yet enjoyed getting to know someone who is different than you are, doesn't mean that you shouldn't, today, learn about another sex, race, religion, ethnicity, or culture. Together we are better. Educate yourself and embrace all humanity. Children, the road ahead of us is an uncertain one. We're in the middle of a strange time. We can't yet see the finish line, but we know that challenging times are ahead of us. This year, more than ever, you'll be called on to be brave, to face things you've never faced before, maybe illness, maybe learning about becoming anti-racist. You might encounter something completely different. But gather your courage. Lean into your education and learn how great leaders in the past have faced and endured challenging times. Be vulnerable with your loved ones. Lean on them and let them lean on you too. Just remember, together we learn, together we are better, together we can overcome the greatest challenges. All my best, Mrs. M.